You think you know your birth chart? Think again. In today's episode here on Cosmic Compass, the leading astrocartography and locational astrology podcast, we're going to be talking about birth charts and the 10 secrets, the 10 essential components that you might not know about when it comes to reading the natal promise of your life, the foundational promise that will unfold over time. Let's look at the birth chart for this. We're going to be talking about what you might not know about your birth chart, some traditional Hellenistic techniques you might not know about when it comes to reading your chart, and why it matters and why this is so helpful in understanding you and your life in a greater way. Number one, not realizing that the chart is not just about you. That birth chart you see with the 12 slices of the pie, those 12 houses, those represent multiple areas of your life. The seventh house is not you, but it's your spouse, your partner, and your one-on-one contacts. The 11th house isn't just your hopes and your dreams and the house of good spirit, but it also represents your friends, your communities, and it also represents activism and social organizations and social media. The 11th house is actually the following and the fan base, your audience, if you decide to create something for community. The third house, for instance, is not just about your routines, your habits, your commute, or the way in which you communicate and process information. But the third house also represents your siblings, your cousins, and your aunts and uncles. And let's take, for example, the house of good fortune, the fifth house. The fifth house represents things like hobbies and personal interests, things that you enjoy doing for fun, representing things like vices or sex or romance. But the fifth house also represents your children in this life. So do you see how by looking at these different parts of the chart, we get a lot of information, not just about you, but other things in your life? When people talk about the third house and how it only represents to how they communicate, I'm always like, you do know that that also represents your siblings, your cousins, and your early childhood development and education. What was your schooling like when you were a kid growing up? There's so many things that these houses pertain to. And so when you look at your birth chart, I want you just to remember that that birth chart is a snapshot, the blueprint of your life, your entire life. And your life is about so many more things than just you and how you see and view life. There's other things that happen to you in this life that are going to be important for you. And that's why understanding the 12 whole sign houses is essential when it comes to understanding your life biography. Okay, let me mark that off of my list here. I wrote a list in my productivity planner. I just decided spontaneously to film this video. Oh, and by the way, if you guys ever want to get my favorite productivity planner, I will include a link to it in the show notes. I got this planner for the first time Christmas Day going into 2018. So it was Christmas of 2017. I got my first productivity planner from Intelligent Change, and I've been using them every year ever since. So my favorite, I have all of their products, the Stoic cards, I have the productivity sheets. So when I'm traveling and I don't bring my little productivity planner with me, I love their products. So I'll include a link down below if it's something of interest to you. Number two, Saturn. Saturn is not just about your limitations and restrictions in life and where there might be some sort of delays or the area of life that you take really seriously. But Saturn is also what you're here to master. Saturn brings good things when you do your Saturn. One of my favorite astrologers of all time, Ann Ortley, she says on her podcast, her weekly cosmic weather podcast, she says, do your Saturn. When you do your Saturn, when you put in the work and master something that requires discipline and effort, you can get the gains from it. And also, fun fact, I don't know if you knew this, but on Saturn, it rains diamonds. Isn't that crazy? On Saturn, it rains diamonds. When you do your Saturn and you put in the work and effort, you get the rewards from mastering a craft or mastering a lesson or mastering something that's hard. We don't need to approach Saturn from this place of negativity or darkness or depression, even though, yes, it does represent depression. We can also see the benefits of Saturn too. And this brings me to point number 3. And number 3 is not seeing the pros and cons of everything in astrology, not seeing the cons with Venus or the difficulties with Jupiter, not knowing that every parent or latitude crossing we have on the map has a pro and a con. A moon-Neptune parent on the map has the beauty of this dreamy, ethereal creativity, but also this feeling of escapism and not being able to fully focus and discipline ourselves. Every parent, every planet, every house, every zodiac sign has benefits and also challenges. There are pros and cons. There's beauty and difficulty with every single aspect in astrology as in life. And when we don't see, or we don't allow ourselves to see the full spectrum of Mars, of Venus, of these different things, we close ourselves off and we put ourselves in these boxes. And astrology is not that. Astrology is a holistic interpretive art form. It's a language that we are learning to read. And by knowing the beauty and the challenges of each planet, zodiac sign, parent, astrocartography line, etc., we have more nuance and also more perspective. Like, I always like to think of how when you see a hard transit, sometimes it's not going to be as difficult as you think it's going to be because there's other benefits that are happening in the chart, or there's the benefit of a Saturn transit or a Mars transit. And I challenge you as an astrologer, as someone who loves astrology, to always see how there are dual sides to the coin with all of these different archetypes. That brings me to point number 4, which is thinking that Jupiter is always great, or thinking that Jupiter is always a good thing, or where you're blessed in life, or where you're lucky in life. Jupiter also shows you in your birth chart where you have a lot of something, where there's a lot of expansion, growth, abundance, but where there's a lot of something. So for instance, Jupiter in the 3rd house can be you write a lot of content, or you create a lot of ideas and content, and you share a lot in your writing or your speaking work. It also represents you have a lot of siblings, or that you have a lot of activity in that area of your life, early childhood education, siblings, cousins, or your routines, journaling. And while Jupiter has its benefits, generosity, abundance, laughter, there's an ebullience with Jupiter, there's a lot of playful silliness with Jupiter. Jupiter also has its challenges. Jupiter can be arrogant. Jupiter can have a lot of hubris. Jupiter can be obnoxious. When we have Jupiter in the 2nd house of money, it can represent greed. Like maybe we have a lot of money in our lives, or making money is something that flows in a lot. Jupiter in the 2nd house can also be kind of a profligate, excessively wasteful, or excessive in its greed or how much it wastes. So instead of always seeing Jupiter as a good planet, it can also be a lot of something. For instance, if someone comes to me and they are, dealing with cancer, they have an illness, I'm not going to tell them to go to a Jupiter ascendant line, because I've seen that people who have cancer, the tumor can grow with Jupiter on the ascendant which represents the physical body. Jupiter on the ascendant can make one prone to gaining weight or excessive weight or just very indulgent. But it can also represent, when we're talking about health or illness, it can represent the expansion or growth of something challenging if that person is going through a challenging health crisis or something indicated in the chart. So this is why always seeing Jupiter as a good thing is not the recommendation. That brings us to the final point within this section of number 5, Mars. Mars is also not always a bad thing. A lot of people, when we first think of Mars, we think of anger, war, aggression, hostility. And yes, Mars does represent those things and is a malefic, the lesser malefic in traditional Hellenistic astrology. But Mars is also about boundaries and cutting, severing, and separating things. Mars in our chart also represents how we handle problems and how we deal with conflict and confrontation. Mars can show us the best way to cut ties or cut things out of our lives. Mars is great for those of us who are on a minimalism or essentialism journey. Mars is great for helping us understand the nuance of problem solving and handling conflict with other people. Mars is so key in understanding how other people deal with conflict. And so knowing your Mars and other people's Mars placements in the birth chart is so important when we're talking about conflict and conflict resolution. So don't always be afraid of your Mars. Now, going into the next point of this, now we're kind of getting into some deeper traditional Hellenistic pieces that not many people know about. And the first one is the lot of courage. The lot of courage in your chart shows you where you need to step it up and lean into your courage in this life. What area of life do you need to activate and enhance your bravery? For instance, do you have the lot of courage in your 7th house of partnerships? Is there a story around protecting, defending, and fighting for your partner? Or stepping into courage, whether it's being vulnerable in love and partnership, partner with someone in business, in a client relationship, or in marriage. Perhaps you have the lot of courage in the 10th house of career and public recognition. Maybe there's something about this lifetime where you are being called to step it up and be seen, to not be afraid of being seen, and to have courage when it comes to your public image and reputation. Maybe this calls for you needing to defend and protect your image. The lot of courage shows you where in this lifetime you need to be more courageous. And when you lean into your lot of courage, you can feel a lot of meaning and fulfillment by honoring that. Number 7, the lot of fortune. The lot of fortune in your chart is a point that shows you where fated things outside of you come from, or what external things outside of your control that you'll be dealing with in this life. And the lot of fortune is usually beneficial. Wherever you have your lot of fortune can show you where you're fortunate in life, or where you have some sort of blessing or help, or just where fated important things are happening to you. So look to the whole sign house where you have your lot of fortune. And you also want to take note when transits hit the lot of fortune. So for instance, if malefic planets like Saturn or Mars are transiting over your lot of fortune, that can show that there are difficult challenges outside of your control that are happening to you. Or the one that I really love, Venus and Jupiter, when the benefics come in and hit your lot of fortune, transit over that. This can be a time when positive blessings and good things come into your life. And I have had this play out in my own life, and it's been so striking. I have so many stories of things that have happened to me, just outside event things that have happened when malefic and benefic planets have transited my part of fortune. And I always, every single year, when Mercury and the sun start moving over my part of fortune, you best believe I take advantage of those times. So by knowing where your lot of fortune is in your chart, in your birth chart, but also transit-wise, oh my gosh, this will help you so much in seeing outside of events and when things are happening for you in your life. Number 7, your lot of spirit. The lot of spirit is different from the lot of fortune because the lot of spirit in astrology represents your calling. It also represents your purpose and what you came into this life to do. A lot of us turn to the North Node when we think of fate or purpose. But the North Node is actually just volume up. It represents what's insatiable, what you desire, and what you can't get enough of. It's the thing that you can't stop chewing on. It's like a dog having a chew toy. The North Node is something that you constantly chew on and want more of. You're always going to be doing your North Node. You're always going to be desiring and wanting your North Node. But your North Node is simply volume up or increase. And it also shows you one of the areas of life in which you're striving for balance and where you're going to find balance in this life. The South Node and the North Node, finding that balance in those two areas of life is going to be key to understanding your life story, especially during eclipse season or when you have a nodal return or nodal reversal, when those periods of times, when those specific moments in life are activated timing-wise. But no. The lot of spirit is not the North Node. They're very different. The North Node is increase in volume up and what's insatiable. And the lot of spirit is your purpose, your calling, and your life direction, and what you're here to do, what you're here to contribute, the purpose of your life. The lot of spirit is so key to understanding you and your life story. and seeing transits to the lot of spirit are very activating. And now let's get into the next point, because we've talked about the three most important lots that I really look at: lot of courage, lot of spirit, lot of fortune. One of the biggest mistakes that a lot of people who get into astrology don't know about is they're not looking at their zodiacal releasing. And this is one of the first things that I look at when I pull up someone's birth chart. Is first I look at the birth chart. I look at the lot of fortune, the lot of spirit, the ascendant, the ruler of the ascendant. I look at all these important pieces. But then after I look at the birth chart, I am pulling up zodiacal releasing. And zodiacal releasing, if you're new to this, it's an ancient timing technique, a Hellenistic timing technique that basically shows your life biography in a series of dates, in sections, in decades, years, months, and days, level 1, 2, and 3, and 4. And zodiacal releasing is so key to understanding the timing of your life biography and when important things happen to you. And so this is one of the key things that you've got to pull up when you pull up your birth chart: zodiacal releasing and the birth chart. Now, in conjunction with this information, you want to pull up with your zodiacal releasing. When you're looking at your zodiacal releasing, you're going to notice, if you go to like a free website such as astro.com, you're going to see on certain dates, there's this little symbol of an L and a B, LB. If you're using Astro Gold, my favorite software that I use for all my astrology work, Astro Gold, you'll see it's a little asterisk. And by the way, if you ever wanted to get my favorite software, the software that I use for all my astrology clients, my teaching, and my personal work when I'm on the go traveling, or just in my day-to-day life, I literally pull up Astro Gold every day to time things, to pick good charts to do things, and just seeing what's going on if something's happening in my life and I'm curious. I use Astro Gold on my Mac and on my iPhone. And if you do want to get this software, just use the code Helena15 for 15% off at checkout. And I'll include the link down below if you'd like. But when you pull up your zodiacal releasing dates, you'll see that asterisk on Astro Gold, or the LB if you're looking on astro.com. And the loosing of the bond simply represents an interruption of the sequence. An interruption of the sequence. This is when there's a pivot or a change, or can be an up level. Like perhaps you've been at the same job for a long time and then an LB comes around and you get a promotion. And I've done very well in predicting for my clientele, my clients. I can predict when they get promotions or raises or up levels in their jobs. LBs are so huge for this. They show changes in direction or a level up, or when it's on a completion period, a pivot or quitting or letting go. So look to the loosening of the bond to see when this is happening in your zodiacal releasing. That represents an interruption, a change, or a pivot. And note if it's happening on a peak period, a prep period, or a completion period or follow through period, because that's going to give you more context as to what's happening. Is it an up level? Is it the first step in a new direction in your life? Or is it simply letting go and quitting? And you can also always add the transits in conjunction with all this. So usually when I'm doing timing and I'm working with clients, I'm pulling up the zodiacal releasing and I'm also pulling up the transits to see the story to get more detail. And the transits always align with the ZR. I am always astounded by how accurate this is. I had a client just this last week or 2 weeks ago. Wow, time is flying by these days. I've been so busy. Things are just so many projects, things I'm working on. I thought it was last week, but no, it was 2 weeks ago. And this client of mine, very young, healthy person, but he got sick. And it was during a challenging period in his zodiacal releasing that started on a level 2. And when I pulled up the transits to see if it was showing up in the transits as well, it was. There was a square from Saturn, or was it Chiron, squaring his Mars, which rules his chart as a Scorpio rising. So just a quick little example of like something I recently saw that comes to mind when I think about this. But the zodiacal releasing dates are showing what the transits are showing, but it's two different ways of looking at it. So both timing techniques are great, and they're the two timing techniques that are my go-to and what I use for all my clients. And speaking about zodiacal releasing, I do just want to let you know that my ultimate, biggest, the only course where I teach all of this in depth, like really in depth. I'm a Scorpio rising. We go deep here. My program, Trust Your Timeline, is now open. It's open. We have over 500 students enrolled in this program. It's so popular and raved over. And the amazing thing about this program is we do live calls together about twice a year. And when you join this program, you get lifetime access, not only to the video modules and the workbooks, the meditations, the example class call replays from previous rounds, but not only that, you get future, forever, lifetime access to the future live calls. So when you join now, you also get the live calls for next year in 2026. And we're going to be running this live. So if you do want to join and get access to over 30 hours of examples, video modules, and see how this works. And this is not just for zodiac releasing, which I go really in depth with in this course, but I also teach you transits, reading your timing with transits, and secondary progressions and lunar progressions. So if you've wanted to have a ultimate all-in-one timing course where you can learn all of this, and this is my only timing course that I offer, check out the link down below in the show notes of this episode and you can join in now. I'm so excited to see you there. If your intuition feels it's a fit, if you feel excited to join this live round, Trust Your Timeline is open. I'm sure you guys already know this, but if you don't know me, I am a traditional Hellenistic astrologer, but I make it so fun. I keep it light, fun. I bring a lot of refreshing, exciting energy into the field of astrology. And so if you've ever wanted to learn zodiac releasing, transits, timing, all of the things that we're talking about in today's episode, but you want to hear it from me, from my perspective, from this upbeat energy, definitely join Trust Your Timeline if your intuition feels it's a fit. And this brings me to point number 10, meaningful periods. We all know about, if you're into zodiac releasing at least, if you've heard of zodiac releasing, we all know about peak periods, right? We understand that peak periods are always the periods where people are excited to learn more about their active, busy times in one's life. But there's also something that I call meaningful periods. And meaningful periods are simply the activation of the ruler of the lot of spirit. And so this is kind of complicated and it gets kind of hard to teach an audio version. But essentially, you want to look to where your lot of spirit is, find the ruler of that zodiac sign that you have it in, and then note what zodiac sign you have that ruler in. Those periods on your zodiac releasing are going to be very meaningful times. Meaningful periods are, I personally think, way more important than peak periods because meaningful periods show you when you're finding your purpose, when you're getting clarity on your life path. It's kind of like a green light from the universe. It's basically when life is giving you a green light and saying, go. It's a great time for manifesting. It's a great time to manifest, to put what you want out there into the universe, into the ethers, to ask for what you wish for, to go for your goals and your dreams, and to really find your calling and life direction in life. Meaningful periods are my favorite thing to pull up when I'm looking at someone's zodiac releasing. And as someone who just went through a year of this last year, let me tell you, meaningful periods are my favorite. And every time I sit down with a client and we go over their meaningful periods when I'm pulling up their zodiac releasing, they're always shocked by how accurate it is, the exact months, the weeks, the years when they learned about something or they found a talent of theirs or they realized they had a gift or there was something that they wanted to do. It was a reckoning, a realization of that purpose during the meaningful zodiacal releasing period. And so pull up your zodiacal releasing. Pull up your lot of spirit. Where do you have your lot of spirit in the chart? What's the planet that rules it? And where is that situated? And then come back to me and let me know either in the comments here or send me a DM on Instagram. I love hearing from you guys on Instagram. And DM me and let me know, what are your meaningful periods? What zodiac sign in your zodiac releasing are your meaningful periods? And in addition, when you find that information, let me know in the DMs or comments, let me know what happened to you during that period when you had your meaningful period. I'd be so curious to hear from you what happened because it always is striking and just astonishing to see how this plays out for my clients. And in my personal life, having this last year, it was so huge for me in just realizing who I was and my soul and what I came here to do. And I really want to help other people find that as well. Last thing I just want to say is that as an astrologer, our job, our role as astrologers and astrology enthusiasts is to weigh things out, to find balance. There's always going to be challenges. There's always going to be difficulties. And there's also always going to be blessings. There's pros and cons. There's nuance. Again, this is a holistic interpretive art form, a language. And so as astrologers, when we're looking at our birth chart, when we're looking at other people's birth charts, we're always considering multiple things: sect, aspects, bonification, maltreatment, essential dignity. There's so many things to look at and consider when we're understanding an area of our lives or a planet's condition and health in a chart. And really, as our job as astrologers is to weigh things out and to find that balance. Makes me wonder, do Libras make really good astrologers? I bet they would. I bet Libra Mercuries make for excellent astrologers. If you have a Libra Mercury, let me know down below. But finding balance and making your judgment as an astrologer is really what we do. It's what we're doing when we're looking at charts. And so being able to see nuance and multiple angles is really key as good astrologers. These 10 essential pieces, key pieces that not a lot of people talk about on the internet. I hope that this got you excited to look at your birth chart again, to go down a rabbit hole, to find more interesting information about your life story. I hope this excited you to get you back looking at your birth chart. And if you do want to follow more, get more of this information in depth, join us for all of our future live classes in Trust Your Timeline. If you like this energy, if you love this content, if you love learning and going very in depth with this information, check out Trust Your Timeline. Doors will be closing. Doors open up twice a year. We run this twice a year. So if you'd like to take part in this, check out the link down below in the description. Since Cosmic Compass is a locational astrology podcast, and while we didn't talk about astrocartography in this episode, I did just want to let you know, give you a little life update. I'm currently in Versailles, recording this from my living room in France. I am going to be here for the next few months, but in January, I'm going to head out to Dubai, and then I'm going to be heading back to the US, which is kind of crazy to be out in California, my hometown of California, during the Saturn-Neptune conjunction in Aries. We'll see if I can last that long in the States, because I always feel like I need to get out of the US after a month of being there. But I'm going to be in the US January and February is the plan. So would love to host some meetups with you guys. Would love to see you guys in person. If any of you guys are in San Diego, Orange County, I love Dana Point. Dana Point is my favorite spot in Southern California. Love San Clemente. Love Newport Beach. Those are going to be spots that I'm going to be hanging in for about 2 months. So the astrocartography journey will continue. So I will keep you posted and let you know as the dates get sooner. But if you are in Southern California, definitely let me know. Hit me up in the DMs on Instagram. I'd love to meet up with you guys. We'll do like a group meetup or something. We did that once in Miami and Florida last year, and it was really fun. On my Mercury descendant line, I'm way more social when I'm in the US than on my Saturn line here in France, I gotta say. Living on a Saturn ascendant line, I am not a social butterfly here at all. But every time I leave this area, I am extremely social, and I want to get back to the meetups again. The astrocartography meetups are so much fun. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode on Cosmic Compass. I'll see you in the next one, and happy astro travels.